You a tutorial on how to create a geometric collage. So up on my desktop right now, you can see some examples of what this looks like. So this is an example using both circles and triangles. Here I have an example. Looks kind of like a star pattern, just using triangles. And then this is an example just using circles. For today's demo, I'm going to be showing you how to create this pattern with the triangles and circles. However, once you learn this technique, you can really be as creative with this as you want and create any geometric pattern that you can think of. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to do is obviously open up Photoshop. You can find this either in your dock or in your Launchpad. Go ahead and open up Photoshop and go to Create New. We're going to go ahead and title this assignment Geometric Collage. And we're going to go ahead and put an underscore and type your name. So for this, we're going to set the width at 10, the height at 8, the resolution at 150, and a little bit different than we've done in the past. Instead of setting the background at white, we're actually going to make it transparent. Once all of this is set up, you're going to go ahead and click Create. All right, so in Photoshop today, we're going to be using a couple different tools. The first one is the Shape tool, and if you right-click on it, there are different options to create rectangles, ellipses, polygons, lines, and you can even create some custom shapes that might come in handy later on for different projects. But for this one, we're going to stick with just the ellipse tool and the polygon tool. We're also going to be using the Move tool and the concept of free transforming. The keyboard shortcut for free transform, just to review, is Command T, or if you're on a or if you have a black keyboard, it is Windows T. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and start by right-clicking on my Shape tool, and I'm going to go ahead and select my ellipse. I'm going to go ahead and click just anywhere randomly on the screen, and it's going to bring up this menu. I'm going to go ahead and predetermine the size of my circle by typing 1,000 pixels. And I'm going to do the same thing on the height. You can freehand these shapes in, by the way, but when we're creating a geometric pattern like the one we're doing today, it's much easier just to pre-type in the sizes. So now that we're done, I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and you can see I have a circle popped up on my screen. I need to make a couple adjustments to this circle. First off, I don't want to fill it in with white. I want to make sure that it is transparent. So I'm going to click No Color for the fill. And then for the stroke, I want to make sure that it is black. The stroke is basically the outline edges of the circle. Finally, I want to make sure that those lines are thick enough to actually see. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that from 0.95 to being 3 pixels. Once I do that, I'm going to click Enter on the keyboard or hit Return so that those adjustments stick. Then I'm going to grab the Move tool. And I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut of Command T to free transform the circle to the center of the page. I know that it's in the center of the page when I see the pink guidelines pop up that make a perfect T right through the center. Once it's located there, I'm going to let go and click the check mark. I'm going to repeat this process a couple times. This time I'm going to add some smaller circles. So again, I'm going to go to the ellipse tool. I'm going to click anywhere on the page, just one click. And then this time, because I want to make a smaller circle that's about half the size, I'm going to type 500 by 500 pixels. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Because I already made the adjustments last time, this circle already has everything perfectly set, so I don't need to make any adjustments. I am, however, going to move it into place, so I'm going to go back to my Move tool, press Command T, and move the circle to the top of my other circle. And again, I know it's perfectly in place because it has, when I move it, it pops up with those pink guidelines. I'm going to repeat this a third time. Once again, click, type 500 by 500 pixels. Click OK. Go to the Move tool, Command T, and move this circle. Once again, look for those pink guidelines. When I see it in place, I'm going to click, let it snap, and check mark it. So this is great, but this gets a little time consuming. So one way to speed this up would be to duplicate our two smaller circles at the same time and move them at the same time. To do this, I'm going to hold down the Command key on my keyboard, or if you have a black keyboard, hold down the Windows key, and I'm going to click on ellipse 2 and ellipse 3. I'm then going to right click and go to where it says duplicate layers and click OK. As you can see in my layer menu, it added a copy of both ellipse 2 and ellipse 3. I'm then going to hold down Command T on the keyboard, and then when I do that, it selects both of these copies. Just outside of the box, I'm going to hover my mouse to the corner where I see a bent arrow. I'm going to click and rotate those circles until I get them perfectly lined up in the center opposite of the previous direction. And then I'm going to click and let go and check mark it now that those are in place. To add one final circle to the pattern, I'm going to go back to the ellipse tool, click once in the center, and then this is going to pop up. Once again, I'm going to change it to 500 by 500 pixels because I want a smaller circle again. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to move this last circle to the center of my design. Oops, press Command T, forgot to do that. And I'll know it's centered when it makes this kind of perfect cross the center of the page. There we go, perfect. And then go ahead and check mark it. This looks pretty good, but I think I still want to take the design a step further and add some polygons to it. If you feel like this was complicated enough, you can stop here and save your work, or fast forward to my last step. Or if you want to challenge yourself by adding 2 more shapes, you're going to go to your ellipse tool, right click, click on polygon, click anywhere in the page, and you're going to add a triangle. We're going to size it to 1000 by 1000 pixels, just like we did with our largest circle, because I want to fit the triangle right inside it. I want my triangle to have 3 sides, so I'm going to make sure that the number of sides is set to 3. Go ahead and click OK. Holding down the Shift key, press Command T to free transform it, and then while you free transform it, hold down the Shift key to make sure that your triangle doesn't move out of place, that all the sizes or all the edges of the triangle stay the same size. And then size it down slightly and move it to the center of the circle. And look for those guidelines to help you. Once it's perfectly lined up, go ahead and press the check mark, and then we're going to duplicate this triangle one last time to create an upside down triangle star pattern at the center. So I'm going to go to my polygon tool, or my polygon layer in my layers panel, and I'm going to right click and click duplicate layer. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then using Command T, holding down Shift, I'm going to flip the triangle around and then move it so it fits just inside the circle. Again, look for those pink guidelines to make sure it's centered, and then check mark it. All right, the final step is to combine all of these layers together so they're in one layer, and that'll make it much easier to create our final geometric collage with the photograph. So to do this final step, I'm going to go up to where it says Layer, and I'm going to click on Merge Visible. And when I do that, it took all of my shapes and it created them, or it flattened them all down to one layer. I'm going to come over here and rename this layer Geometric Pattern. All right, so that's everything that you need to know for this first step. I'm going to stop the recording here, and I'll pick up with a new video showing you how to add the photograph.